Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating, and air restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
San Diego's mayor and congressional representatives are urging border officials to reconsider closing the PED West Crossing. Thanks for joining us. I'm John Carroll in for Maya Trabulsi. Local leaders are warning the closure would harm the economy and families during the holiday season. Operations at the pedestrian West Crossing at the San Ysidro Port of Entry are set to be suspended starting at 6 tomorrow morning. Customs and Border Protection says it will redirect its personnel to help the Border Patrol as it deals with an influx of migrants. The chief executive of the San Ysidro Chamber of Commerce says there are 800 businesses within 2 miles of the crossing, and about a third make their net sales between November 20th and January 6th.
This is a punch in the gut at the worst possible time. On the boulevard, 95% of their clientele comes from Mexico. On this side, the outlet side, 65% of their clientele comes from Mexico. This isn't just about Christmas sales. This is about students trying to get to school on time. This is about people visiting their families. This is about Americans trying to get to work.
In January, northbound operations returned for the first time after a pandemic-related closure in April of 2020. And just last month, the southbound direction reopened for the first time in 3.5 years.
Well, the big story tonight is wind. We have high winds, and the Santa Ana winds are really blowing tonight into early Saturday morning. So that's the main story. We're going to stay dry. Temperatures will drop down to around 42 in places like Escondido and into 42-degree lows into San Diego as well. To the east, 32 for your low into Mount Laguna. Now, you'll see a lot of areas just barely inland into the area around Pine Valley to Juliet and Temecula, at least near Temecula. Wind advisories in effect. We're going to have full details, and we'll tell you when the winds will subside in a little bit.
Earlier, we told you California Representative Darrell Issa is introducing legislation that could make it easier to prosecute fentanyl deaths as homicides. KPBS reporter Katie Hyson went to Temecula City Hall to witness that announcement.
Dozens of signs surround the podium. Cassandra Walker Nolan, forever 38. Maddie Matich, forever 16. Alexandra Capeluto, forever 20. Below their photos, the words, victim of drug-induced homicide, poisoned by fentanyl. Parents say their children didn't know the pills they bought from dealers, often marketed as less potent opioids like Percocet, contained fentanyl. Alexandra's father, Matthew Capeluto, has been pushing to pass Alexandras Law in California for several years. Issa is taking it federal. It would require the court to warn anyone federally convicted of providing fentanyl that if they continue and it results in someone's death, they could be charged with murder. Riverside County District Attorney Mike Hestron says right now his office doesn't have much power to prosecute these deaths.
Over the last 3 years, in conjunction with the sheriff and our police chiefs, we have filed 33 murder cases involving fentanyl deaths. And we're proud that we've led the state in taking this new approach. But it's a drop in the bucket.
Harm reductionists say incarceration won't save lives. They are pushing instead for easier access to supplies like fentanyl test strips and Narcan. Katie Hyson, KPBS News.
Federal funding is coming to help mitigate harmful effects from the Salton Sea in Imperial County. KPBS health reporter Matt Hoffman says millions are going to help reduce dust.
The Salton Sea is the largest inland lake in California, but it's been receding as it dries up. The exposed lake bed creates dust that fills the air. Researchers from UC Riverside have found that the lake's dust triggers lung inflammation, and it may have a role in the region's high asthma rates.
We know that the Imperial Valley and the eastern Coachella Valley have poor air quality, and that any additional worsening of that air quality is a problem. And so that's why it's so important that we're doing projects at the Salton Sea to help address that.
Samantha Arthur is Assistant Secretary for Salton Sea Policy with the state's Natural Resources Agency. She says $72 million from the Biden administration is the first major federal funding to help with Salton Sea mitigation efforts.
This is a really exciting announcement.
The state has invested hundreds of millions to restore habitats for plants and fish. Reducing the harmful dust is done in two ways. One is adding water to dried up lake beds, but in other areas,
on the west and east side of the Salton Sea, we're actually planting native vegetation that grows up and functions kind of as a windbreak to help keep dust down.
Arthur says the federal funding complements the work the state is already doing. It's part of a larger agreement with the Federal Bureau of Reclamation, the state and local water districts.
And the Bureau of Reclamation committed $250 million to that effort, contingent upon local water agencies conserving Colorado River water to help stabilize that system. So this first $70 million is a portion of that, and we're excited to utilize it to expand our projects at the Salton Sea.
Covering exposed lakebed with water are longer-term projects, but in the meantime, dust control projects are a priority. Matt Hoffman, KPBS News.
A new ballot initiative aims to lower electric bills. Power San Diego is asking voters to replace for-profit SDG&E with a municipal not-for-profit utility. The utility would handle electric distribution for people living in San Diego and create a department to manage it. Power San Diego's campaign manager says San Diegans would save about 20% on their bills right away, and he says city customers would save $20 billion total by the year 2042.
Having ownership of the poles and the wires in San Diego allows us to not have to pay SDG&E for these delivery costs. We know that this is a model that works for small cities and large cities, and we know that it can work for San Diego.
Power San Diego estimates a public utility would cost about $3.5 billion, which would be paid off by customers over 30 years. SDG&E says the initiative places the safety and reliability of the power grid in jeopardy. More Californians will be eligible for full Medi-Cal coverage at the start of the new year. A new state law gives full coverage to adults ages 26 through 49, regardless of immigration status. Currently, Californians under 26 years old or over 50 years old are eligible. However, all other Medi-Cal eligibility rules, including household income limits, still apply. You can learn more about Medi-Cal and apply for benefits at the website on your screen, that is sandiegocounty.gov/meta/cal. The CDC wants to remind everyone it's not too late to get vaccines. It takes about 2 weeks for flu, COVID-19, and RSV vaccines to provide optimal protection. That leaves enough time to get the best protection in time for Christmas. The CDC says vaccination rates are low this year, and hospitalizations for these infections are rising. In the future, you may not have to roll up your sleeve every year to get a flu shot. Mandy Gaither has more.
Excuse me.
It's been a long time coming, but research into a universal flu shot is inching forward.
We're now ready to test the vaccine in people to see if we get the same responses as we got in our animal models.
Ted Ross is Global Director of Vaccine Development at Cleveland Clinic. His program is trying to make a flu vaccine that won't have to be manufactured each year. It would protect against all strains of the virus.
You wouldn't have to wait for a particular season. And as long as we have long-lived immunity, then we would be protected this year, the next year, the year after, without having to get a booster shot.
Ross hopes it would encourage more people to get vaccinated, but the virus wouldn't go away completely. He says that since it's present in animals as well, the vaccine would have to be updated every once in a while.
We've now done all our preclinical testing, and we're in the manufacturing stage of our vaccines to do a human trial in 2024 and in 2025.
So far this season, there have been at least 1.8 million illnesses, 17,000 hospitalizations, and more than 1,000 deaths from flu. Ross says a universal flu vaccine is likely still about 5 years or less away. But the new technology his team is using could also be useful in work on other viruses like COVID, too.
It will actually be able to make the vaccine more effective, long-lasting, and reduce the number of vaccinations people need to get over their lifetime.
For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
The Phase 1 trial will research the safety of the vaccine. Phase 2 and 3 are wider scale studies looking at the safety and efficacy of the shots. A long-awaited ban on menthol-flavored cigarettes delayed amid intense lobbying by the tobacco industry. Critics accuse the Biden administration of trying to avoid alienating black voters who disproportionately smoke menthol-flavored tobacco products. Gloria Pazmino reports.
The NAACP is expressing anger and disappointment at the Biden administration for delaying a ban on menthol-flavored cigarettes.
If you don't ban menthol flavor, you send a clear message that Black lives do not matter.
More than 83% of black smokers choose menthols, according to a 2020 national survey on drug use and health. And the CDC says black people die at higher rates of smoking-related illnesses. But the African-American community is divided on the issue, with some leaders arguing it would lead to an illicit market and more deadly police encounters.
It's becoming a political issue because of black leaders trying to make it such. You know, you have black leaders that are taking the stand of tobacco companies rather than saving black lives.
A ban would only allow the FDA to regulate the sale and distribution of menthol cigarettes. Enforcement would focus on retailers, manufacturers, and distributors, not individuals. Public health groups say the Biden administration is putting politics over people.
There's just no reason for this delay, and only one can conclude cynically that the industry has had an influence on the administration's decision.
I'm Gloria Pazmino reporting.
A $3 billion federal grant will help build a new high-speed rail line between Southern California and Las Vegas. SDSU's Miro Kopik tells us more about Brightline West in the Friday Business Report.
They're going to start construction in 2024 and be done by 2027, just before the 2028 LA Olympics. There's going to be a station just outside the Vegas Strip. It's going to go down to Rancho Cucamonga, and it's going to connect with the LA Metro Link and take passengers all the way throughout LA County, including Union Station, and they can come down to San Diego. The capacity is 500 passengers. They're expecting trains leaving every 45 minutes every day. It's going to help reduce times that people travel, because right now the train is expected to take about 3 hours, and lastly it's going to employ about 35,000 workers over 3 years to get the job done. Brightline is the only private company in the country that does high-speed rail, and so they did a big project in Florida between Orlando and Miami. That was completed. It was about a $5 billion project. That's successful so far. So this is a big project. It's a very high profile and high prestige project, and it's going to validate the need for this high-speed rail, not only within California, but on the West Coast.
There's another project closer to home included in that federal funding. The California Department of Transportation was awarded $500,000 to study extending Amtrak's Pacific Surfliner to San Ysidro. Sports fans and concert goers could soon have an easier time getting tickets. A bipartisan group of senators has unveiled a live ticketing reform bill that puts fans first. It proposes new restrictions on resellers and ramps up protections against online bots that snatch up tickets. The bill would also force ticket sellers to display all-in pricing in their listings, including fees. Ticketmaster's parent company, Live Nation, endorsed the bill today. Queen Bee's Arts and Cultural Center is a lively community space and a beacon for artists in North Park. KPBS arts reporter Beth Accomando says the venue celebrates its 15th anniversary this month.
Hi everybody, Hi, this is Queen Bees. Come in, welcome. Let me give you a tour of the venue.
For 15 years, Alma Rodriguez has been overseeing the 8,000 square foot hive of Queen Bee's Arts and Cultural Center in North Park.
And this is where magic takes place sometimes, quinceañeras, weddings, concerts, comedy, open mics, poetry, you name it.
Plus salsa, swing, metal swap meets, and even a classroom to teach pole dancing. Rodriguez also points out the venue's battle scars from numerous punk concerts.
My scratches in my floor because of the mosh pits.
But even that's cause for celebration.
I think my vision for the location was basically be the hub of art and culture and provide people with a unique space to create new events and promote art and music and dance and everything that makes people happy.
Even if what makes an artist happy might cause controversy, like a black mass performance art show from almost 10 years ago.
When people bring me an idea or a proposal to say, I'm doing this is a place for expression. This is a place for art. As long as it's in the guidelines that and the policies, everybody has the opportunity to express themselves. Nobody judges anybody inside this facility. The way I see it is like, come in, experience, and then be yourself. And if you want to create, this is the place to create.
Right now, Rodriguez is creating a party to celebrate Queen Bee's 15 years as a supporter of the arts.
And it's just going to be a party for the community, you know, to everybody to know that Queen Bee's is here.
Rodriguez is busy preparing for next Tuesday's party.
I'm a Queen Bee. I have to wear so many hats and keep the hive alive.
She's eager to show how she's transformed a 99-cent store with multiple building violations into a vibrant art space.
Basically, I came in a perfect time. Economy was pretty much crashed, and there was a lot of abandoned places and buildings, and it was a kind of a challenging times. The transformation was incredible because it took years. It didn't happen overnight.
She'll be celebrating not just the birth of Queen Bee's, but also the life of Alan Hitch, the late owner of the building.
He was a very amazing person to support the arts and help me throughout the pandemic, and to just say, hey, you do what you can, and then when we go through this, we all in this together.
Alan died earlier this year, and Rodriguez is now trying to buy the building to secure Queen Bee's future. A portrait of her as Napoleon indicates her level of determination.
Interpretation of Napoleon right there, because my father named me Napoleon as a short and wanted to take over the world.
But another portrait of her taps into the joyous spirit of the upcoming party.
The Grand Marshal of the parade of great artists and musicians and dreamers and everything that takes place in Queen Bee's.
The donation-based community event kicks off at noon on Tuesday and will celebrate this buzzing hive of creativity and its very busy and passionate Queen Bee. Beth Accomando, KPBS News.
Well, we do have a lot to talk about here in San Diego and surrounding areas because of the Santa Ana winds tonight. They are very active. We're dealing with gusts of wind between 40 and 60 miles per hour. It depends on where you are. The canyons and passes are more likely to be on the higher end of that scale. And if you're in the city or in areas that might be a little flatter, you're probably seeing something a little bit lower on that scale there. But elevated fire danger is always a concern whenever the Santa Ana winds blow, because it's a dry, downsloping wind that comes from the mountains, and that is a process, downsloping, that dries things out. Overall, even behind this, we do have a precipitation-free 5-day forecast. So overnight tonight, we'll get down to 42, clear, chilly out there, windy as well, and there are wind advisories. Now, the wind advisories do not specifically include San Diego, but they do include most of inland San Diego County and into Orange County as well. There are even high wind warnings further to the north. You can see a portion of the coastline near Los Angeles under a beach hazard statement with some rough surf, big waves out there. So the surfers love it. The surfers do love it, but it is a danger. So we have some travel hazards tonight tied to this too, with that strong crosswind if you're going to be traveling down I-5 in a high-profile vehicle or parts of I-15 as it channels through the canyons and passes there. So be careful out there as well. Overall, though, tomorrow we have a quieter day once the winds begin to subside in the afternoon. Highs around 69 into Ramona, 67 Borrego Springs, only 44 up in the mountains, but 73 into San Diego, and that looks pretty good. So here we have our 5-day forecast for the coast. Windy out there, but otherwise becoming pleasant after the winds subside. Temperatures are actually going to nose downward into Monday from 76 Saturday to 70 Monday, and we'll hang out in the upper 60s here with a good deal of sunshine, still dry Tuesday and Wednesday. Inland areas here, we're peaking around 78 Sunday, and then a little bit of cooling. Gorgeous weather, though, Tuesday and Wednesday, low 70s then. Into the mountains we go, and here we're running a little chillier. Temperatures ranging from the low 40s to the low 50s. Mildest Sunday and Monday. The winds are a concern, though, early Saturday. And the deserts as well. Here we have some pleasant dry weather, a lot of sunshine, and temperatures in the upper 60s, peaking at 71 on Monday. I'm AccuWeather meteorologist Jeff Cornish for KPBS News.
9 months after a public art piece was removed from the San Diego International Airport for being too woke, the work is resurfacing, this time at a nonprofit art gallery in Logan Heights. KPBS reporter Amitha Sharma has a look at the new and expanded exhibit opening tomorrow.
So this is going to be like a handout at the show. Still going to figure out how it's going to be displayed, but
designing a detail as simple as a display is thrilling for artist Evan Apodaca as he installs his work at the Athenaeum Art Center in Logan Heights. Its debut there tomorrow caps a bumpy journey. In March, San Diego International Airport officials unceremoniously stripped the wall near Gate 48 of Apodaca's public art video piece, critical of San Diego's military presence after an onlooker called it woke BS.
that person's comments went all the way up to the chain of command in the airport, which directly caused the removal of the artwork.
The artwork is named Monumental Interventions. It expresses opposition to the local military-industrial complex and its role in world conflicts through the mouths of beheaded statues of well-known figures. The severed heads are computer-animated and speaking the words of San Diego residents. A statue of former British Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher asks this:
do we want to continue to create an economy that believes in death and destruction?
Just weeks before the airport slammed the door on the piece, Apodaca says the Athenaeum opened theirs to showing the work at its center. Executive Director Christy Mitchell declined an interview, but in a statement, she said the center was interested in offering Apodaca a solo show because of his hyper-focus on issues affecting Southeast San Diego. Mitchell added, quote, his video works are the result of years of research and thinking, and we are excited to be making them available to our audiences and to provide a space for various perspectives. Apodaca says the Athenaeum's invitation has renewed his excitement about the project he started in 2017.
It's not easy to enjoy sometimes because the subject matter is so intense. It's about violence, you know? And so the fact that someone wanted to support it and wanted to support me in getting these ideas out there it just felt like a dream come true.
Elizabeth Larison of the National Coalition Against Censorship has called the removal of Apodaca's work from the airport censorship. She says the advantage to showing artwork in non-governmental spaces like galleries and museums is they may be more receptive to contentious ideas.
Particularly if it goes with their brand or their mission or the artistic tastes and expectations of, say, like their clients and their audiences. They may be less concerned with controversy.
And while it may seem like Apodaca's art might get fewer eyeballs at a gallery instead of an international airport, Larison says suppressed work, any kind, draws even more interest. That's what happened when singer Barbra Streisand tried to get the California Coastal Commission to get rid of a photograph of her Malibu home taken to document erosion.
I think in the case of some artists, when they are censored, there's something called the Streisand effect, which takes place, which means that the attention brought by the censorship act itself can help artists show with other places.
Apodaca expanded monumental interventions to include a segment on the grave environmental effects of the nearby Navy base and shipyards on Barrio Logan, considered one of the most polluted communities in California.
The communities that are adjacent to these shipyards that lost their access to the ocean when these shipyards were created are communities that have the highest pollutants, highest rates of asthma and other diseases among the population.
Apodaca has also added pieces to the exhibit. One highlights San Diego's anti-war movement in the 1960s and 70s. Another is a tapestry of headlines documenting the Red Scare in the early years of the Cold War. And he has created a map depicting San Diego's defense contractors, what they produce, and where they sell their weaponry.
We know it's a military town. But we don't know the exact violence that is inflicted. And when you see these specifics, the specifics of the violence, those are things that individuals in San Diego don't know much about.
But he adds, those are the very things we need to know. Amita Sharma, KPBS News.
Apodaca's exhibit opens at 5 tomorrow afternoon at the Athenaeum on Julian Avenue. You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm John Carroll. Have a great evening and a wonderful weekend.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating, and air restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit BillHowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.